Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Luqman Hakim bin Emli, and today, along with my partner Mohamad bin Mohamad Husairi, we will be presenting on our research paper with the title of Effects of Quarantine and Online Distance Learning on Student Mental Health, a study in UITM SEREMBAN 3. I will begin on our research background. In the end of 2019, the globe was stunned with the appearance of a lethal and highly contagious virus, which is the COVID-19. The pandemic caused most of the countries of the world to impose a total lockdown to stop the spread of the virus. Our government imposed the Movement Control Order (MCO) in order to restrict the spread of the virus by quarantining at home. The impacts of quarantine towards the mental health are severe, with increasing demand for mental health services. Signs of deteriorating mental health during the quarantine includes anxiety, depression, deprivation, fear and isolation. These symptoms led to people coping with their state of mental health by turning to alcohol and drugs. Significantly, the psychological effect of self-isolation and social distancing is elevated during quarantine. Student success highly dependent on their mental capabilities, which influence their motivation, concentration, and social interactions. This indicates that mental health is significant in ensuring the success of students mainly in universities and college. The purpose of this research is to examine the effects of quarantine and online distance learning on students' mental health in University Technology Mara, Seremban 3 campus. Next, I will be explaining on our problem statement. According to a report by the Malaysian Ministry of Health, mental health amongst students have been severely deteriorating from the year 2012 to 2016. Main causes of mental health as reported by the Health Ministry is depression and anxiety, also considering another factor to the issue, which is drug-related problems. In fact, the recent movement control order imposed by the Malaysian government can be a factor for mental health problem among students. In a study conducted in 2017, students tend to stress about financial constraints along with academic-related issues. In light of the quarantine, students not only are forced to study virtually, but some also lost their part-time jobs, which may lead to financial burdens and resulted to stress and depression. Next, because of the movement control order and students are expected to study virtually, students may lose a sense of commitment or prefer a face-to-face learning. This may result in students to fall behind on their syllabus and may result them to drop out. Next, I will be explaining on our research questions and objectives. Our research questions consist of 7 questions along with 6 research objectives. This paper aims to answer the questions of what is the level of mental health of the university students during online learning and quarantine. What is the relationship between the level of social interactions and the mental health of the university students? And what is the relationship between the level of motivation of the students and the mental health of the university students? The objective of this research paper is to examine the effects of quarantine and online learning towards the mental health of university students, to examine the relationship between the level of social interaction towards the mental health of the university students, to examine the relationship between the level of motivation of the students towards their mental health. Continuing on our research questions, the fourth research question is what is the relationship between the students' methods to increase income and the mental health of the university students. The fifth question is what is the relationship between the students' living environment and the mental health of the university students. What is the relationship between the students' behavior and the mental health of the university students? And lastly, what is the main factor that influence the mental health among university students? Continuing on our research objectives, the fourth research objective is to examine the relationship between the students' financial well-being towards their mental health, to examine the relationship between the students' living environment towards mental health of the university students, and lastly, to examine the relationship between the students' behavior towards their mental health. Next, I will be explaining on our conceptual framework, and our independent variable being mental health of UITM SEREMBAN students during quarantine. And mental stability is a part of mental health. And according to World Health Organization, mental health can be defined as a state of well-being in which the individuals realize his or her own abilities and can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to contribute to his or her community. While performing the duties given, being safe emotionally will foster efficiency and effectiveness. Next, it is necessary for an individual to maintain their mental health in their daily life to ensure a good aspect of life. Things like stress and depression can be avoided if an individual practice a good mental health state. For example, during open distance learning, students are dealing with a new environment of study and the new norms which requires effective technology. The change in the studies also can bring impact towards the students' mental health because the students might not be ready with the new environment of study. Mental health is compulsory in order to achieve a good academic performance. During open distance learning, students should be able to manage their mental stability, such as avoiding from being stressed with work overloads and assignments. Besides that, students also might face difficulties during study as it needs suitable environment to stay focused and concentrate. For example, study at home would be difficult for some students to stay focused because of their surroundings are filled with family members and they might have no space to study well. If the study continues in the university, students will be able to focus as the universities provide many facilities for the students. This can boost the students' motivation to study well, which later can help them during the examination season. Moving on to our dependent variable. Our first dependent variable is social interaction. And due to the pandemic, students are currently doing an online learning. It is because it is to exercise a social distancing among each other. With the advancement of technology nowadays, it can be done since the usage of technology is very vague. The social media such as WhatsApp, Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram will be the medium for the students to discuss their assignment. However, the academic discussion can be disrupted if they encounter poor internet connection. They hardly can comprehend the subject matter. Thus, our research hypothesis being that there is no positive relationship between social interaction and mental health being our H null, and there is positive relationship between social interaction and mental health among students being our H1. Moving on to our next dependent variable is motivation to study. Motivation also may have crucial relationship with mental stability among students. With the presence of motivation, it can drive the students to do a lot better during online class that comes with pressure to perform well and meet the expectation by the lecturers. And our hypothesis for this dependent variable being the H null is there is no positive relationship between motivation and mental health among students, and there is positive relationship between motivation and mental health among students. Thirdly is our third dependent variable being the methods to increase income. A student always face financial problem. They need to pay a lot of things including their fees, books, printout, their slides or any notes from their lecturer, laptop for their assignment and internet connection to do their research and to buy food so they can stay healthy. So they need to do anything they can to gain an income for themselves. And for this dependent variable being our hypothesis is there is no positive relationship between methods to increase income and mental health of the students being our H null. And for our H1 is there is positive relationship between methods to increase income and mental health of the students. The fourth dependent variable being the living environment. A student needs a good living environment for them to focus during their studies. Any kind of disturbance during their class can affect their concentration. As an example, not everyone has their own room. Some of them share it with their siblings. For those who do not have a room, they will use any space that they find comfortable so that they can join the class. Because of that, they need to face such disturbance such as from the TV and family members. And our research hypothesis for this dependent variable being our H null is there is no positive relationship between living environment and mental health among students. And for the H1, there is positive relationship between living environment and mental health among students. And lastly, our last dependent variable being the behavior. A behavior of the students can give a huge impact towards their own mental health. It can either drive them towards a better person or can consume themselves in the future, especially during an online class, which need a lot of discipline from the students itself. Thus, our research hypothesis for our last dependent variable being there is no positive relationship between behavior and mental health among students for our H null, and there is a positive relationship between behavior and mental health among students being our H1. The next section of our research presentation will be presented by my partner Muhammad Adam bin Muhammad Husairi.
Hi, Assalamualaikum. My name is Mohamad bin Mohamed Husairi. So I will presenting about the methodology for this research paper. So for the research design, a few methods will be used, which are correlation analysis, quantitative methods, descriptive research, and multiple regression. The correlation analysis is used to examine whether the dependent variable and the independent variable are related or not. Other than that, as to mandate to the identification of the dominant aspects in the study, the method of multiple regression will be used. It is to know what are the strongest factors that contribute toward mental stability of UITM students during open distance learning. So this quantitative uh, research method is also used will be based on primary data coming from the survey involving UITM Seremban 3 students. So for the unit of analysis is referred to the student at University Teknologi Mara Negeri Sembilan Campus Seremban 3. So the questionnaire in the Google form will be distributed to all students in UiTM Negeri Sembilan Seremban Campus in order to obtain the data and information in order to complete the study. So moving on for the sample size, we actually have chosen 300 respondents for our sample size. And for the sampling technique, we are using a stratified sampling technique. We are using the Likert scale for the data measurement. It will be labeled as 1 to 5, where the one end will be strongly disagree and the other end will be strongly agree. So for the data collection, we are using a self-administered questionnaire since the respondent fill it in themselves without an interviewer. It is called self-administered, considering the distance between the Kuala Lumpur for the interviewer and Seremban for the respondent quite far. So last but not least, for the data analysis in our research paper, we actually have chosen Pearson correlation and multiple regression. Okay, so moving on with the research finding. In the research finding, there will be a demographic profile. So based on the demographic profile, in this research was carried out on the 300 respondent, varying from 50.7% of male students and the rest is women. Is a female, sorry. So majority of the respondent ranging from 21 to 23 years old, which is 75%, followed by 15.3% from 18 to 20 years old age group, and 9.7% from 24 to 26 years old group, and none from the 26 years old and above. So moreover, majority of the respondents are from the faculty of the FSPPP with the 55.3%, along with FSKM with 29.3% and 15.3% from the faculty of FSR. So level of education of majority of the respondent are bachelor degree, which is active 80.7%, and the diploma students is 19.3%. So for the main finding, the first objective we use is a Pearson correlation and get the result of R value equal to 0.698 and P value equals to 0.000, and the hypothesis is H null is rejected and H1 is accepted. For the second objective, we are still using the Pearson correlation. The result is R value equal to 0.710 and P value equal to 0.000. So that's the hypothesis is H null is rejected and H1 is accepted. So moving on with the third objective, the Pearson correlation are still the same. We are still using the Pearson correlation and the result is R value equal to 0.14142 and the P value equal to 0.014. So the hypothesis is H null is rejected and the H1 is accepted. For the fourth objective, the Pearson correlation are still used. Hence, the result is R value equal to 0.591 and P value equal to 0.000. So the hypothesis is reject. So the hypothesis rejected the H null and they accepted the H1. So for the fifth objective, we are using the Pearson correlation and the result is R value equal to 0.449 and the P value equal to 0.000. The result from it is a H null is rejected and H1 is accepted. So for the last objective, we are using the multiple regression and the result is R square equal to 0.586 and the motivation beta value is 0.395 and the p value equal to 0.000. So thus we can conclude that the motivation is the most superior factors which affect the mental health of students in UITM Seremban 3. So for the research limitation and future suggestion, there are three aspects that I will be presenting. So the first one is limited sample. So the sample number is derived from the single academic institution, which is UITM Seremban 3. In addition, only 300 numbers of students that responded to the survey. Other factors that may have influenced the study's finding include students' preconception about their study environment, as well as some respondents who may not have given honest responses in order to conceal their opinions. As a result, the researcher recommends that this study be replicated by a different organization or academic association that wants to look into the aspect that influence students' mental health through social contact, motivation, income generating methods, living environment, and conduct. So this type of study can be used by any researcher to investigate the findings for probable validity in order to improve the mental health of students as well as techniques to overcome it. So moving on with the second aspect, which is the limited model. So this study only used 5 independent variables, which are social interaction, motivation, methods to increase income, living environment, and behavior. So if the research used a restricted model of the question, the finding will be less encouraging. So the more models the researcher can use, the better the result will be. So according to the researcher, for the future research, they can use other variables such as students' lifestyle and students' accessibility to resources. And last but not least, the weaknesses of the quantitative study. So quantitative research is actually quite difficult, costly, and time-consuming to carry out. So this study is actually rigorously designed to ensure proper randomization and accurate control group assignment. So it is sufficient to have a significant number of responses to reflect the sample. So quality qualitative research is actually recommended for the future study because it saves time and money. It also focuses on both the individual and the collective. Qualitative research also can reveal information about the respondents' habits and beliefs. So for the conclusion, this research aims to explore and better understanding the elements for mental health among the students in UITM Seremban 3 through social interaction, motivation, methods to increase income, living environment, and behavior. So these five most common causes contributing to mental health among the students were discovered and examined in this research. So particularly, this research showed that all independent variables consisting social interaction, motivation, and methods to increase income, living environment, and behavior are associated favorably with mental health among students. So significantly, the present study has contributed to the academic institutions used understanding, particularly towards UITM Seremban 3, which to highlight the most significant feature that must be addressed when encountered towards the student who have mental disability. Okay, that's all from us. Thank you so much.